Hi students, welcome to lesson 31, Urban Planning Principles and Practices. Introduction. The Encyclopedia of Britannica explains urban planning, design and regulation of the uses of space, focus on the physical form, economic functions and social impacts of the urban environment and on the location of different activities within it. Because urban planning draws upon engineering, architectural, social and political concerns, it is variously a technical profession, an endeavour involving political will and public participation and an academic discipline. The important objectives of this lesson. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand urban planning and its significant principles. You will be able to describe physical planning, town planning, master plan and zoning. Urban planning. Urban planning is the theory and practice of planning and construction of cities, towns and populated places, providing comprehensive solutions to socio-economic, civil engineering, transportation and architectural problems connected with design and construction. City planning and development is a vital aspect of modern living and thus building of cities has become one of the great undertakings of civilization. Socio-economic aspects of urban planning consist of population distribution and growth, sanitation, hygienic task, creation of the most healthful conditions for the population, planning protective green belts between residential and industrial territories and determining areas requiring anti-malarial treatment, landscaping as well as measures for controlling noise and preventing soil, atmospheric and water pollution. The significant concepts included in the practices of urban planning are physical planning, town planning, master plan, zoning, etc. Let us discuss these concepts of physical planning. Physical planning focuses on the general pattern of land use, the character and location of public buildings and structures, the design of streets, the location and development of transit and transportation systems. It also includes all the other physical facilities which are necessary or required to promote the economic progress, comfort and accessibility. It is a framework to propose the optimal physical infrastructure for a settlement or area including infrastructure for public services, transport, economic activities, recreation and environmental protection. A physical plan may be prepared for an urban area or a rural area. Physical planning facilitates the urban planners to contribute to the design, function and sustainability of urban communities. The important planning elements are environmental protection, heritage and history protection, housing, office, wholesale and retail business, industrial and economic development, transportation element, public utility and sanitation services, storm, water and drainage, gas, electricity, recreation, open space and playgrounds, civic facilities, education, public health protection, public safety, post and telegraphic services, property identification and address, public participation and intra-governmental coordination. Physical planning of cities is based on these principles. Sustainability of planning promotes sustainable practices in initiatives, operation and development. Land use patterns should respect the natural environment and preserve open space as much as possible. It should integrate the natural and built environment and encourage sustainability and efficiency in building layouts. Natural and cultural resources, major landscape, wildlife habitats and vegetation features should be maintained. Compatible exterior landscaping with surrounding plant communities and natural surface drainage flows to be maintained as much as possible. Protection of historic and prehistoric cultural resources is important. Access and ease of transportation facilities with parking facilities and adequate housing opportunities for all its inhabitants by enriching the experience and quality for all inhabitants of the city is important. Physical planning is concerned with the living, working, recreation and enhancing economic development. Facilitation of the provision of infrastructure, utilities and services and creation of aesthetically designed cities are parts of physical planning. Reduction of psychological stress and creation of a conducive environment for all is important in physical planning. The significant functions of physical planning are: firstly, initiate, formulate and review the national land use policy. Secondly, national and regional planning. Thirdly, standard setting. Fourthly, technical and administrative support to the local authorities including town and country planning board. Fifthly, review of the legal framework for physical planning. Sixthly, inspection and monitoring all land-based developments in the country to ensure that they conform to approved planning schemes, laws and regulation. Seventhly, monitoring of utilization and development of land by various ministries and organizations to ensure compliance with national policies, standards and plans. Eighthly, liaising with local and international organizations including NGOs that have relevance to physical planning. The importance and benefits of physical planning are reflected in the fight against urban and rural poverty. It benefits in addressing environmental problems and supports to maximize the use of land and other resources. It facilitates orderly development and introduces aesthetics in our settlements. Physical planning separates incompatible land uses and eases service provision and can be used as a fund-raising tool. It helps to improve property values. It also deals with natural selfishness among developers and thus reduces nuisances. Physical planning helps to conserve or preserve important features or areas and sensitizes public in support of development efforts. It protects water catchment areas and protects underground water reserves. Let us discuss about the application of Geographic Information System (GIS) in urban planning. Cities are systems of tremendous, ever-evolving complexity. Responsibly guiding an area's development requires spatial information that's robust, nuanced and constantly updated, as well as the problem solving skills to apply that information. This challenge has made geographic information science and technology invaluable to urban planners. A geographic information system GIS is a framework for gathering, managing and analyzing data. GIS is used in urban planning for analysis, modeling and visualization. By processing geospatial data from satellite imaging, aerial photography and remote sensors, users gain a detailed perspective on land and infrastructure. As urban population grow and spread, the importance of GIS lies in its ability to pull together the vast amounts of information necessary to balance competing priorities and solve complicated problems such as optimizing new building placement or determining the feasibility of a waste disposal site. GIS technology empowers urban planners with enhanced visibility into data. For example, GIS software may generate visualizations of an area's current environmental conditions and allow users to draw comparisons between anticipated results of proposed development plans. Let us now discuss about town planning. The word town planning is commonly used to indicate arrangement of various components or units of town in such a way that the town as such attains the significance of a living organism. It consists of ways and means to be adopted for the improvement of existing forms or for the extension of towns. Town planning requires a fine imagination and common sense of the understanding of the various needs of the society occupying or likely to occupy the town. Town planning is a science as well as an art. This science consists in collecting, correlating and analyzing the facts about a town. Town planning is physical, social and economic planning of an urban environment. It encompasses many different disciplines and brings them all under a single umbrella. The simplest definition of town planning is that it is the organization of all elements of a town or other urban environment. The ideals of town planning are beauty, convenience and health. While planning for beautification of a town, planner has to achieve by taking the most possible advantages of the natural conditions surrounding the town and also by giving architectural firmness to various components of town. The object of convenience is to consider economic, social and recreational amenities to be provided for the people. While considering for healthy environment, planner has to look into proper use of land by providing parks, playgrounds and avoiding all the polluting factors. These three objects of town planning should be implemented by maintaining the balance between them. In the present days of rapid urbanization, the planning of urban centers must attract the highest attention. Let us now discuss about master plan. A master plan may be defined as a general plan for the future layout of a city showing both the existing and proposed streets and roads, open spaces, public buildings, etc. A master plan is prepared either for improvement of an old city or for a new town to be developed in a new area. A master plan is a blueprint for the future. It is a comprehensive document, long range in its view, which is intended to guide development in the township for the next 10 to 20 years. The master plan is a land use and infrastructure plan that sets forth local goals, objectives and policies for community growth and redevelopment. The master plan is a guide for land use for the future. The master plan contains a future land use plan and map. This is often mistaken for zoning. Master plan is also referred as a comprehensive plan, future land use plan, basic plan and general plan. The master plan serves as the basis for the local zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, other local land use regulations, and for ensuring that capital improvements are consistent with the community goals and policies expressed in the master plan. Master plan aims at intelligent and economic spending of the public funds. It arranges the pattern of a town in such a way so as to satisfy the present requirements. It helps in restricting the haphazard and unplanned growth. It places various functions which a town has to perform in physical relationship of each other so as to avoid the chances of mutual conflict. It removes the defects of uncoordinated physical growth of the various components of town due to the fact that it considers the entire city area or town as planning and development entity. It serves as a guide to the planning body for making any recommendations for public improvement. The data required for preparation of a master plan includes details of trades and industries, development of the airports, economic condition of the authority, environment of the sites, facilities of the transport, geological condition of the site, land values and land use pattern, locations of spots of natural beauty, locations of the water supply unit, meteorological details such as intensity and direction of wind, temperature, rainfall, mineral resources, places of historic origin, political condition of the surrounding area, population requirements for railway stations, goods yards and shipping facilities, special requirements for powerhouses, gas works, sewage disposal plant and storm water drainage, etc. The features to be included in a master plan comprises of convenience and inexpensive means of transport, good sanitation and water supply, open air spaces, population density control, proper situations for places of worship, education and recreation, rational layout, width of roads, etc. The planning standards are fixed for various types of uses such as educational facilities such as primary school, high school and college, medical facilities such as dispensary, health center and hospital, shopping facilities such as departmental stores, shops, etc., amenities such as burial ground, crematorium, cinema, auditorium, stadium, petrol filling cum service stations, police stations, post office, fire station, library, community hall, telephone exchange, etc. Width of roads such as village roads, state roads, national highway, development of land for the construction of the buildings in the form of various buildings, bylaws, etc. The approach to the preparation of master plan involves outlining the critical issues of city development, undertaking a demand supply gap survey and analysis, making projections for the next 2 decades. Formulating management framework including strategies for future growth and development to include defining options for promoting rational development through the introduction of a regulatory mechanism, realistic planning and management interventions within the overall regulatory and institutional framework. Various stages of preparation of master plan include these things. Firstly, identification, defining and notification of local planning area. Secondly, identification and notification of planning agency. Thirdly, preparation of existing land use plan by satellite imageries, survey of India maps, physical ground surveys, revenue maps and other available documents. Fourthly, study, assessment and analysis of local planning areas, urban areas in terms of regional setting, historical evolution, demographic studies, socio-economic studies, housing, slums, poverty, trade and commerce, industries, traffic and transportation, physical infrastructure like water supply, sewage, solid waste management, social infrastructure like educational, medical, recreational facilities, environment, heritage and tourism, growth pattern, land use and available studies and report. This is followed by involving stakeholders through focus group discussions FGDs and personal interviews, meeting with experts, think tank meetings, NGOs or private agencies or public agencies or state departments, public representatives, etc. Sixthly, identifying gaps, issues and problems through comparison with available norms and standards, spatial distribution, quantitative and qualitative analysis. Seventhly, carrying out strength, weakness, opportunities, challenges, SWOC analysis based upon studies made and analysis carried out of city assessment, stakeholders' perception, identified problems and gaps, identified major socio-economic drivers. The eighth aspect is working out city requirements for next 20 years based on population projections, norms and standard, broad land use requirements, etc. Ninthly, defining conceptual framework through defining vision for future growth and development by identifying broad objectives, laying down mission statements for critical areas. This is followed by preparation of alternatives, concept plans. This is again followed by the 11th stage, evolving draft master plan. It includes involving proposed land use plan, traffic and transportation plan along with development control regulations. It is based on existing land use plan, critical areas, growth driver areas to be preserved, conserved and promoted, heritage areas, land use analysis, land suitability analysis, studies and assessments made, gaps and problems identified, stakeholders' perceptions, objectives or vision or missions which are framed, future population growth, future infrastructure requirements and available land for development. 12thly, notifying draft master plan for inviting public objections or suggestions. This is followed by considering public objections and suggestions. This stage is followed by finalizing master plan, issuing public notice, including phasing and investment plan. The next phase is, and the last one is, evolving zonal plans based on proposed land use. Let us now discuss about zoning. Zoning defines the mechanism and regulations by the municipal authority of the use of land and of the buildings. Zoning is defined as the process of planning for land use in a territory to allocate certain kinds of structures in certain areas. Zoning also includes restrictions with regard to the height of buildings, use of green space density, that is number of structures in a certain area, types of businesses. Zoning is done at different levels and is of different types. For instance, open space, residential, retail, commercial, agricultural and industrial. Zoning is a planning control tool for regulating the built environment and creating functional real estate markets. It divides the land that comprises the statutory area of a local authority into sections, permitting particular land uses on specific sites to shape the layout of towns and cities and enable various types of development. Zoning has a relatively short history as a tool for land use planning. It determines the location, size and use of buildings and decides the density of city blocks. Thus, zoning is a technique of land use planning as a tool of urban planning used by local governments in most developed countries. Legally, a zoning plan is usually enacted as a bylaw with the respective procedures. The zoning is related to multiple aspects like density, height and use. In density zoning, the density of population in the residential areas is controlled by means of suitable rules and regulations. Indirect measures are adopted to have effective density zoning. Firstly, the front side and rear margins of the boundaries are specified. Secondly, the maximum height of the building is specified. Thirdly, the maximum size of allotment for each house is specified. Fourthly, the number of houses per unit area is limited. Fifthly, the ratio of total site area to the total built up floor area is specified. The height zoning aims at controlling the height of buildings with due consideration of contents of the buildings and the street width, the marginal open spaces, light and ventilation. The height zoning has multiple advantages. It controls the development of central business area of the cities and it thereby assists in solving the problems associated with such heavy concentration, for example, traffic congestion. It is found that if buildings with uniform height are constructed on important streets or roads, it gives pleasing aesthetic appearance. Height zoning prevents an undue monopoly of light and ventilation by some tall buildings at the expense of adjacent units of small heights. Use zoning defines the uses to which various parts of the town will be put. They are broadly classified into 4 subdivisions. Firstly, residential zone. Secondly, commercial zone. Thirdly, industrial zone. And fourthly, the recreational zone. The practitioners of initial phases of urban planning focused mostly on aesthetics with no regard for human welfare. The present day urban planners take a much more holistic approach to community development. They look far beyond aesthetics to consider the environmental, economic and social health issues that affect the sustainable development of the community. Urban planning has become very complex process with time intensive nature and high cost of planning. If the planning process takes too long, the solution it proposes may be obsolete before they are fully implemented, which is a serious concern in emerging cities where change occurs more rapidly. One of the most influential critiques of modern urban planning came in 1961 by Jane Jacobs. Her book Death and Life of Great American Cities blasted 20th century urban planning and proposed radically new principles for rebuilding cities. Jacobs argued that modernist urban planning rejects the city because it rejects human beings living in a community characterized by layered complexity and seeming chaos. Jane Jacobs says that cities are ecosystems, and she compares cities to living things that change over time as they interact with their environment. If the city is the organism, then the sidewalks, parks, streets and neighborhoods are the various systems, each with a different function but tightly and seamlessly integrated. By viewing cities in this way, planners can better understand their structure and make more efficacious recommendations. She saw diversity as an absolute requirement for healthy, vibrant urban communities. Diversity did not just refer to populations. 4 long-term objectives were set out by the planners in India. They were: firstly, to increase production to the maximum possible extent so as to achieve higher level of national and per capita income. Secondly, to achieve full employment. Thirdly, to reduce inequalities of income, wealth. And fourthly, to set up a socialist society based on equality and justice and absence of exploitation. National Urban Policy Framework 2018 outlines an integrated and coherent approach towards the future of urban planning in India. NUPF stands on these guiding principles. Firstly, cities are clusters of human capital. Secondly, cities require a sense of place. Thirdly, not static master plans but evolving ecosystems. Fourthly, build for density. Fifthly, public spaces that encourage social interactions. Sixthly, multimodal public transport backbone. Seventhly, environmental sustainability. Eighthly, financially self-reliant. Ninthly, cities require clear, unified leadership. And tenthly, cities as engines of regional growth. Dear students, let us now summarize this lesson. Urban planning is a technical and political process concerned with the development and design of land use and the built environment. It includes air, water and infrastructure such as transportation, communications and distribution networks. Urban planning deals with physical layout of human settlements. The primary concern is the public welfare, which includes considerations of efficiency, sanitation, protection and use of the environment, as well as effects on social and economic activities.